to them like real people, just use some lower level words, just use some words that will make sense to them. I used to nanny, and one of the children I nannied for, we went to a therapy shop one day, a sort of holistic shop where they did health foods and vitamins and so on. And there was a toy helicopter on the work counter, and she started twizzling with it. Now this child was 8 years old, and the man behind the counter said, "Are you looking at the helicopter?" And she did this. Yeah. And you can tell that in her head she was thinking, what a muppet. You have to talk to them as if they're real people. And use your imagination, because theirs are brilliant. They have brilliant imaginations. I had a little girl just 2 weeks ago who came to see me all the way from Yorkshire. And Mum said she's not sleeping well at night. There's some issues at bedtime. So I sat down with her and I said, "What's going on?" She said, "It's the monsters." And Mum said, "I've tried to tell her that there aren't any monsters, but she won't listen." And I said, "Well, because there are." And Mum went, "Ugh!" And the kid went, "Ugh!" And I went, You do know about the monsters, don't you?" Yeah. It's the guard monster who lives under your bed. His job is to protect you. So when the other monsters come in the night, the "I forgot to do my homework" monster and the "Alice isn't my friend anymore" monster, when they try to come and get you, your guard monster is there to block the doorway, seal up the window and keep you safe. Why don't you draw me a picture of him and tell me what his name is? And understand that they understand you better than you ever realised. My cousin's little boy, who's now 7 years old, a few years back, probably about 18 months ago, he was getting ready for bed, and I see them every Wednesday, and my cousin Alan said, "It's bedtime now," and he went, "I want to go to bed, I'm not tired, it's not bed." And we have this every week. My cousin said, "Go get your pyjamas on." "All right, I have pyjamas on, I'm not tired, I don't want to do this to me." And Alan went out the room and I said, "Do you know, you do this every week. Every week you do that voice that you just did, the one that goes, "Oh," and he went, "Yeah, I know." And I said, "Every single week you moan. Do you moan like this when you're at home and it's bedtime?" And he went, "Oh yeah. And I said, "Does it work?" And he said, "Every time." So, quick story. Because what would your children say about you? There's a process in NLP called perceptual positions. In short, and there's a few different versions of this, a few different spin-offs that people use, but I'll give you the simple version. In chair number 1, you sit down as yourself and you answer questions as yourself about a problem or a challenge that you are experiencing. In chair number 2, you sit down as the other people who are involved in that problem or challenge, and you answer questions as if you were them. So as if you had their characteristics, as if you had their voice, you take on their whole persona and personality. It's to help give you insights as to how they see the situation. And in chair number 3, you are the observer. And as the observer, you're able to see the situation like a fly on the wall. You have an overall perspective, and you kind of cut off from the emotional content that these other two might be experiencing. And I had a couple of boys that came to see me, and that's always a worry. It's always a worry when you get 2 children from the same family coming to see you, because you know that it's not the children that have got the problem. But anyway, one of them, I said, "We're going to do this little game together, and you're going to sit down as yourself and answer questions as yourself. You're going to sit in the other chair, and you're going to be the other people involved in this challenge. And in the last chair, you're going to be the all-seeing observer. You're going to get to see this from a whole new point of view." We had a few chairs involved because this was a family issue. So we had a chair for his brother, we had a chair for his mum, and we had a chair for his dad. And some interesting stuff came up here when he was being himself. And God love him, you know what? He gave it everything. This kid is like 11 years old, but he went for it. And what's interesting is he was one of them that I thought, that I prejudged, wasn't going to really engage with this. In my head I thought, you know, we're going to get a bit of that going on here. Actually he didn't, he really went for it. When he sat down in one of these chairs, the most interesting thing happened. He sat down as his dad. And when he sat down as his dad, I started to ask my questions and I said, so Dad, can you tell me what's going on in this situation? And he started to answer me, and then he did this. Hello? Yeah. Well, I think you should probably sell Japan. Well, do you know what, it's just causing us too many problems. Sorry about this, I'll be with you in a second. So if you could sell Japan, maybe let's relook at Tokyo again. You know what, just, you're gonna have to, I'm in the middle of something, you're going to have to call me back later. Alright then, okay then, bye-bye. I, meanwhile, am standing here going, seriously? So I went, sorry, Dad. We're in the middle of something. This is kind of important. I really need you to keep your attention with me. Bearing in mind this is an 11-year-old boy pretending to be his dad. And he went, sorry, I've got a text coming through. I'll be with you in a minute. Like this. When he got to the observer chair, I said, what did you learn? And he said, I need to spend a bit more time with my dad. And I said, and do you do that already? Or does he do that? Because we're referring to him in the third person. And he said, no, what happens is the dad takes him out, they go to the park together, but the dad never really actually talks to him. He's still got his phone with him. And every time that phone is there, they're never really together. An interesting piece of learning from an 11-year-old boy. If you tell them they're stuck, they always will be. There was once a time when a little boy came to see me because his baby sister had died and he'd lost his confidence. And this is what Mum told me on the phone. Now what I do when I work with kids on a one-to-one is I get the parents and I drop kick them out the room and then I work with the kid. Because you get a different sort of communication from a child when their parents out the way. You get a lot more from them. What happens when you work with kids and you've got a parent in the room is you ask the child a question and they look at the parent and the answer comes out the parent's mouth. It's like ventriloquism, it's amazing. So I get the parents out of the way and I said to this little boy, how do you know that you've lost your confidence? And he said, because Mummy told me. And I said, oh, if Mummy told you that your confidence was back, would you be okay? And he went, oh yeah. Okay, I think I know what we need to do. Now the interesting thing was with him is that the baby sister that had died was actually a miscarriage that Mum had had. He'd never met the baby sister. So this is something that the mum was still carrying around and in a way had sort of accidentally built it into him by way of how she was perceiving him at that time. It was completely accidental. She didn't know that she was doing it. And I never told her. That. I just sent her an email that said, when he does stuff really well, I want you to point it out to him and tell him what an excellent job he did. When he does stuff that isn't quite right, I want you to tell him that wasn't quite right, but this is what you do next time to make it even better. And I just sent her those instructions. Meanwhile, the sessions with the child involved lots of drawing and colouring and having a bit of a laugh, and not a great deal of therapy. It didn't take more than 2 weeks to get an email back from that mum to tell me how much his confidence had grown. Because she'd been telling him how much his confidence had grown.